Cases of abandoned children, some neglected by their parents with others hauled out of the comfort of their homes to the streets of major towns, remains common in Kenya. For many, childbearing is almost a routine, a blessing that many would wish to dictate its schedule. It is almost taken for granted that children will grow up. After growing up, they'll go through a good education system and then eventually land a good job. Most of them will start their families. That is the expected fairy tale. What we don't know is that millions of people across the world, and of course here in Kenya, are increasingly finding themselves in situations whereby they cannot start families or they cannot have children. The increasing cases of infertility are bound to alter the game plan altogether. It is estimated that at least 2 in every 10 people in the country suffer from one form of infertility to another. Between 15 and 35% of couples across the globe are experiencing infertility, with just about 20% of cases reporting infertility amongst both sexes.
Infertility has gotten worse worldwide because of multiple factors. One is just the delay in conception in most people. And when a woman delays in conception, then the other factors which come to play is you have things like uterine fibroids that grow, you have endometriosis, the risk of infection, and age itself is a factor.
But it is the revelation that cases of infertility amongst men are on the rise that has raised concern.
You need at least 20 million sperms for conception. It's because once sexual encounters occurs, there's quite a loss of sperm, so you need 20 million, and they have to be motile. They have to be able to swim in the female birth canal, and they have to be of good quality and what we call morphology. So what has happened worldwide is that sperm count, that sperm parameters, the good sperms have become less and less. It's not quite clear to explain, but pollution may be a factor. Yeah.
But what is infertility?
According to World Health Organization, is failure to conceive when people have had regular coitus. When you say coitus is 3 to 4 times in a week for 1 year, then we say there's a problem with conception. Why do we say that? Is because it's not a guarantee. Just one menstrual cycle pregnancy will occur. So you need at least 1 year, then you say there's a problem.
If the condition occurs when the sperm from the male and the ova from the female fails to naturally meet to necessitate conception of a pregnancy.
But if the intervention is very early, then the chances of conception becomes quite early. It's just like any other disease. Any other disease, be it malignancy or whatever, if you wait for too long, then it becomes chronic. It affects you worse off. The same applies to infertility. And what you like to urge our people is 1 year down the line, you don't have children, then you have to come. On the other hand, don't come after 2 to 3 months. We can't do anything. We need to wait for that 1 year. Yeah.
In women, closed fallopian tubes account for about 70% of cases reported at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The latest phenomenon that causes infertility amongst women is endometriosis. The condition that affects close to 15 million people across the globe has left experts puzzled.
We know the normal menstrual menses in a woman, they flow downwards, they come through the birth canal. But for reasons which we don't understand as scientists, the periods can go backwards and they get attached themselves into the fallopian tubes and they cause a reaction and conception does not occur.
Low sperm count, weak or even dead sperms contribute to the situation amongst the male counterparts.
There are several issues we look in the sperm. One is the count, which you have said should be 20 million. The sperm should be able to swim up because they have to swim up through the birth canal. They should be of good quality. And actually they should be alive because sometimes the sperms may be there and they're not alive. So we look at all those factors and then grade them and say this is good or not. You can have good sperms. You can have what we call oligospermia, is low sperm but not so bad. And some cases you can have no sperms at all, which is a serious problem because that one somebody may require a sperm donor.
But can the condition be reversed to enable couples get children of their own?
So if it is a man, it becomes, if the low sperm, there is a low sperm count, but the sperm are there, then we can wash the sperm, concentrate them, and do artificial insemination, what we call intrauterine insemination. We are just washing the sperm and actually putting them in the womb, and that will improve the chance of conception. If a man has no sperms at all, or very, very low sperm, we can do what we call IVF, the test tube baby, and you can be able to harvest sperms from the testes. So it's still possible even if you have no sperm count at all. Most of the time you may get, but not everybody. That's a man. For the female, if the tubes are blocked, if they're very mild blockage, we can operate. The surgery will do laparoscopy, make small holes on the uterus and correct those fallopian tubes which have a problem. If the uterus has a problem, has uterine fibroids, or there's what we call endometriosis, again we can do surgery, corrective surgery. And sometimes simply is if the ovaries are not able to produce the eggs, but they are there, we can test and find whether they're there. There are conditions where you can have what we call an ovulatory cycle. The eggs are there, but the ovulation, the eggs are not coming out. Then we can be able to put fertility drugs and the eggs will come out and the conception will occur. But if this patient cannot be helped by actually either the surgical intervention or the medical interventions completely, then they have to come for the test tube baby. The test tube baby is simply what you call IVF, in vitro fertilization, is you're removing, harvesting. You are giving this lady appropriate medications and you grow eggs and you go to theater through the birth canal, you retrieve the eggs out. When you retrieve the egg, you get the husband's sperms and put it together, or get a sperm and inject it into the egg. And then within 2 to 3 days, the embryo, that is the earliest development of the fetus, the baby, will occur. And then we'll be able to transfer back and give medication to make sure the pregnancy occurs.
Prohibitive prices, however, continue to lock out hundreds of thousands of Kenyans suffering from the condition.
It's beyond the reach. I don't think, I think maybe only 5% of the population can afford, maybe 5 to 10%, 90%. Because I work in Kenyatta National Hospital, most people can't simply afford at all.
The actual cost, because my husband used to, my ex-husband, my first husband, used to keep a note in the kitchen, and he would add every figure we spent. An estimate of over 4 million shillings we spent. That is officially what he knew. What he did not know is the million times I was trying also to see herbalists and other witch doctors, which could have even run into another million or so. Even just the things friends bring you and you tip, you know. Because friends also know you are suffering from this need. So they keep on pumping you with information. You know, try Kenyatta Market, try here, try Kariako, try Masai Concoction, try this. Every time you are spending, every time you are spending.
The test tube baby, the cost is about 400,000. That's per cycle. But for every cycle you use, the probability that actually pregnancy will occur is just a third. So no, on average, you may need 3 cycles. And therefore, on average, it's going to cost, an IVF baby costs 1.2 million. Yeah, because most people have to undergo many cycles, sometimes 2, 3, or even 4. We've had cases, even some people have had 5 cycles.
Roslyn Orwa, the founding director of Rona Foundation, began her journey to get a child at the age of 26, just after she was married.
And then the stigma starts. When a baby is coming, questions start to arise. Families start to ask questions. People start to demand. My own family and his own family, when a woman is married, she's expected to bear children. By the time we are heading to a year, depression starts to creep in. And of course, that came with domestic violence. And as a woman, you keep on thinking, maybe perhaps if I give this man a child, then he will stop beating me. Emotional violence, psychological violence. The heartmost thing in this process was actually the emotional violence.
What followed was one attempt after the other, one hospital visit after the other, with no tangible results other than a huge financial burden.
This was the era when Makini Herbal had just come. So then, of course, they were advertising and telling women how it's easy to conceive. And Makini Herbal was expensive, Achola. It was 70,000 per month. You pay Makini for a whole year, every single month, drinking herbs and herbs. You come back from Makini Herbal, your friends already, some of your women friends, oh, we know this witch doctor who is in Mombasa. My friend just went to him, gave this concoction and conceived. Again, off you go, Mombasa. You come back from Mombasa, I know this one in Machakos. You come back from Machakos, I know this one in Lagos, Yaya. You come back, you are forever on the run. You're forever on the run.
Societal expectations were hanging heavy on her young shoulders.
There's an instinct. Every woman deep down is born with the motherhood instincts. And that's the one thing a woman wants most.
Soon, violence, both emotional and physical, was to characterize her marriage. She had to move out.
And when I left the marriage, it was completely abusive. My house was burnt. My office was burnt, both in the village and in Nairobi. They completely did not want that a woman like me carrying that burden of men of childlessness to come around, and dowry had to be returned because there's no child. So my parent, and returning dowry is humiliating. It's so humiliating. Women are literally spitting on your mother, saying, why can't she just stay? Because other women have been childless and living with their husbands. Why can't your daughter just accept that she can't bear a child? Why you gave birth to 7 daughters? You see this bad of men you gave us.
Rosaline attributes the immense pressure she endured in her first marriage to societal expectation. 500 kilometers away from Nairobi in the sleepy village of Nyapera in Busia County is Petronilla Museve. At the age of 40, she is back to her parents' home. That in itself points to an existing problem.
I was not blessed with children in my marriage.
Naturally, the society expects that a woman her age should be married. Her tribulation began at the age of 18 when she was married as a second wife a few kilometers away from her parents' home.
So he told me there was a place he wanted me to accompany him to. I agreed. He then took me all the way to my parents' home. Once there, he told me to stay with my parents. He never told me my fault, neither did he reveal to my parents. He only promised to come back for me. He never came back.
After her failed marriage, she moved to Kisumu and vowed to conceal first before entering into any marriage.
Niliwahi kuwa na rafiki for 5 years. After my marriage, I got into a relationship with another man for 5 years. He too left me. I never got a child. After several other attempts in different relationships, I never managed to get a child. So when I got to the age of 35 years, I gave up getting a child, or better still, getting married. Niligive up mambo ya kufikiria mtoto. Niligive up mambo ya kufikiria kuolewa. Niligive up mambo ya kufikiria kurudi penye nilikuwa nimeolewa.
Today, she is positively living with the HIV virus. Now, the stigma that surrounds people who cannot get children in our society is increasingly exposing such people to the HIV virus.
Kutopata mtoto. Barrenness can be a factor in contracting HIV. Remember, you're looking for a child, and when you're looking for a child, you don't use contraceptives.
They cannot afford to protect themselves because they are looking for a baby. So this is not a woman you can tell about condom use. She's not a woman you can tell. They throw everything to the wind, and the only aim they have in life, the only motivation they even have to go sleeping around is to get a baby.
A lady in the village, she get married to husband Edwin. The next day they discover she can't have children. She moves to husband Otieno, Kinyanjui. She's forever moving. In fact, every time you meet her, you'll ask her, where are you now? She'll tell you, now I'm married elsewhere. But that's the deep point is, every time she's moving away, she's also moving away in search of a child. And what happens to them? Witch doctors eat heavily from them. They actually conned their money and their bodies.
Rosaline and Petronilla feel the society and the government have neglected the childless in the society.
And unfortunately, again, when there is no child in marriage, the woman is the first one to be blamed. You know, even if they discover that maybe the fault is with the man, it is normally later when he has married so many wives and they are not conceiving. That's the only time they can suspect him.
In the traditional community, a woman like myself, the Luo were burying very far away in the forest. If they knew, even if my ex, the one who divorced me and we returned dowry, that's the one they must return my body to. Even if I'm being buried just outside there, it's like just being thrown away. She does not belong in life or in death. There's no space for her because this community only recognizes women who give birth, and more so if they give birth to sons.
Jamii yetu ya Kimarachi inatambua mtoto kama mrithi. Stage ya kwanza. Uzao wangu. My community recognizes a child as a hay. descendant, umbilical cord, my generation, my foundation. It looks at barren women as temporary beings, a person that cannot be swept away anytime by the wind.
Kwa hivyo anaangalia mtu mwenye ana mtoto ni mtu ako temporary. So mtu ako mwenye ako temporary, hata upepo tu inaweza kumuondoa wakati wote.
And in fact, they say if one of us loses their right, we all lose our right. So this childless woman, God forbid if she's a widow, she literally is an observer in a society. She's expected to perform, build the economy, bring up society, but you have cut her off from everything else. Nobody's speaking for her. In fact, sometimes I ask the childless women, can we also champion our rights so that we also access insurance, adoption laws are changed? Because it has to start from somewhere.
This is fueled by the fact that the country does not have any public IVF facility.
Because as far as the IVF is concerned, we have 6 centers in this country, they're all in the private hands. There's not even a single IVF in the public hospital. That's the biggest problem we have. And that's why maybe if we have one in a public hospital, then the cost will come down. I work in the University of Kenyatta National, and that's what you're trying to push to see whether you can have a low-cost IVF in the public hospital, Kenyatta National Hospital.
Insurance companies do not make it any better.
They don't cover infertility, not even IVF. Immediately you mention infertility to insurance, they never cover it, which is a tragedy again.
Another factor is the stringent rules for adoption that basically lock out the majority of the poor childless in the society.
Adoption is one of those things that is only left for the rich in this country. A woman with no income, no zero a day, as I call it, living in a grass-thatched fallen house in a rural village, childless. The land under her feet is already being contemplated. Who is going to take it? How will she prove to the government that she can adopt and take care of her child?
Adoption of children is not really, it's not really accepted. Yeah, they say buying a child. So you will be seen like you just bought a child. It's not accepted. So you cannot just tell them like you can adopt a child and leave.
Achola Simon for Channel 1 Family Matters.